Let's talk about solution engineering. This is the part of the course where we dive into getting from a blank sheet of paper to a complete system. So after discussing all the basics and introducing you to the essential analyses that we have to carry out, we are actually going to carry them out. So we will do a lot of data analysis. Now this requires that you familiarize yourself with a couple of tools and concepts. And in your first term you had this course, Introduction to Computer Science, which most of you hoped you would never need again, and which you didn't particularly enjoy for the most part, at least if you are like your fellow students from previous years. However, you will need some of what you have learned in these lectures. In particular, we will work with Python. You don't have to work with Python, but I will work with Python, and I will assume a certain level of knowledge in Python, a certain level of expertise. I know it's not, you haven't done any sophisticated things, but by and large, Python isn't a very complicated language. And there are so many sources online, so much support material online, that I will expect you to basically make up for all the gaps in your knowledge and get up to speed. There's no excuse. Also, I expect you to install the appropriate tools to work with Python. And those are, for instance, a proper IDE like Visual Studio Code, including Jupyter Notebook. That would be my recommendation. You don't have to do this. You can work with basic Python and work in a text editor, but that's not as convenient, and you can facilitate and improve your learning experience by using a proper IDE and Jupyter Notebook. Don't ask me how to install those things. You figure this out yourself. You want to become engineers, so you will solve these problems. All right. With that said, you don't have to use Python. You can use Excel. You can use SQL, which you also touched upon in your Introduction to Computer Science course. You can use any language and any tool that you like. You can use Tableau. You can use Power BI. And all of these tools are good. And many of them are good enough. Most of them are good enough for what we will do. But I will focus on Python. So if you want me to help you, then you have to work with the tools that I'm using. Before we dive into the analyses, we want to talk about the different types of analyses that exist. We want to talk about qualitative criteria and qualitative analyses. We want to talk about quantitative analyses. And we will spend most of the time on quantitative analyses. The reason being that the data we have, the data comes from a real system. However, we can't visit that real system. So we will make a couple of assumptions about the processes that we find in that warehouse, and then we will spend most of the time on the quantitative part, which means data crunching, which is fun. And then we will be trying to get from the data to a complete system, meaning we want to sketch a concept based on the data that we find. We want to define some processes, and we want to use this case study as, basically everything we discuss will revolve around this case study. So we will discuss a great variety of concepts and planning principles and rules based on that case study. So this is a very hands-on part of the course. Now, normally I'm on campus, and normally we do this together in the classroom. Now, currently I'm not on campus, and we do this asynchronously, and so I'm expecting you to do your homework and to, try to do what I'm doing here on the screen. You can always ask me questions as long as you demonstrate that you have tried to figure out the problem yourself. And so that's how it's going to work.